Hello, welcome to this Halloween special of the Nakshatras. My name is Brooke. I'm a Vedic numerologist and astrologer, and I thought it would be really interesting to do a video on which nakshatras would come to a Halloween party. And so, we're just going to kind of personify the nakshatras and pretend they're people coming to a Halloween party. They've all been invited. We're going to see who shows up. And so Halloween is always the 31st of the month of October. And so it has a birth number of 4, right? The 3 plus the 1 makes Halloween have a birth number of 4. And number 4 is ruled by Rahu. And what is Rahu? It's illusions, it's ghosts, it's being very grounded in the material world. And so it's so fitting that Halloween has this birth number of 4. And so tonight we are going to talk about which nakshatras would come to the Halloween party. And so I realized that the nakshatras have nothing to do with Halloween, but I just thought it would be a fun video to make to kind of do a refresher on some of the things that the nakshatras represent and which ones would actually show up for the party. So the way I'm going to do the video is I will tell you which nakshatras are coming to the party. I will tell you what they're going to be dressing up as, because they are going to be dressing up as the yoni, the animal that represents each nakshatra, and then I'll tell you why they're going to come. And then at the end of the video, we are going to say which nakshatra was the favorite at the Halloween parties. And if you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe so you never miss one of my other upcoming videos where I teach you about numerology and astrology and how to best navigate your life in this material world. Let's get started. Okay, so the first nakshatra coming to the Halloween party and actually showing up a couple of hours early because they are so excited is going to be, can you guess? Purva Bhadrapada. So Purva Bhadrapada is ruled by Jupiter, and Purva Bhadrapada is going to be coming as the lion because its yoni is the male lion. And so its deity is Aja Ekapada, and it has to do, this nakshatra, with the spiritual fire that is burning within us and the need to burn away the materialism and go towards the spirituality to better prepare for the next dimensions. And so Purva Bhadrapada is represented by 2 faces. And this can mean several things. It's living in the material world and functioning here, but being very grounded in the spiritual world. And a lot of times people with Purva Bhadrapada prominent in their chart do seem to be functioning within the material world quite well, but their minds are actually somewhere else, thus the 2 faces. It can also be seeing both sides to a situation, and then also living so that we're aware of our past lives and our karmas, but focusing towards the future and leaving this material world behind. That's the spiritual fire. And so Purva Bhadrapada is perfect for Halloween, right? The 2 faces. When we go to a Halloween party, we wear a mask, right? We're presenting ourselves as one way. That's the mask, but we're actually someone else that is not being shown, right? The mask is covering us. And I'm not saying that people with Purva Bhadrapada are two-faced. This is not a bad thing when they are two-faced, because that is the symbol. It's actually because they're presenting as living in the material, but they're more focused on the spiritual. And so Purva Bhadrapada came early. This nakshatra was so excited, and they are actually the only ones that are able to kind of control and guide this Halloween party, right? Because Halloween has a birth number of 4, and Purva Bhadrapada being represented by Jupiter. Jupiter is the only planet that can control Rahu. And so, Halloween is really, we're going to personify Halloween as well. Halloween is very happy that Purva Bhadrapada came, because they're going to be, this nakshatra is going to be the only one to kind of guide the Halloween party, make sure everyone stays in line, right? It is ruled by Jupiter. And so why did I have this first on the list? Purva Bhadrapada is going to entail everything that has to do with going towards spirituality. And so that's going to be the occult, mysticism, death, ghosts, coffins, graves, cemeteries, it's endings, it's asylums, hospitals, things that are dark, right? It's not leaving the hospital, it's going into the hospital. And then with this, scary movies, horror movies. I don't remember if I said morgues, but cemeteries, everything that's dark. And so you can see why Purva Bhadrapada is very well suited to come to the Halloween party. It is also represented by the skull and crossbones. And so you can see, the skull and crossbones is such an iconic symbol of Halloween. And Purva Bhadrapada is also represented by the front legs of the funeral cot, right? Very Halloween. Okay, the next nakshatra that's going to be knocking on the door is ruled by Venus, but also the deity is the god of death, which is Yama. And so if you guess Bharani, then you're absolutely right. Bharani is the next nakshatra that's knocking on the door. And Bharani is going to be dressing up as an elephant. So Bharani is a really interesting nakshatra, right? The deity is Yama, the god of death. And it's ruled by Venus. And so it has this energy of creativity as well. And so Venus and Mars together is passion and creativity, right? Because it's sitting within Aries. And so this nakshatra has to do with death. And then after death, there are new beginnings and creation. And so because of that, it's linked to the higher realms. Now, another symbol of Bharani is actually the boat. And with it also being the elephant that is the yoni of Bharani, this has to do with transportation. And so this is interesting. The elephant can also represent carrying the burdens of humanity, right? People that have Bharani prominent within their charts can carry the burdens of humanity and be very moralistic people. But in this case, we're talking about the transportation. And so the symbol of the boat as well as the elephant. So it has a lot to do with the transportation of our souls and of ideas in between dimensions and realms. With Yama being the god of death and then the transportation, this is going to be a very spiritual nakshatra. And a lot of people with prominent planets in Bharani are going to be very interested in the occult and spirituality. And so because of this, that is why Bharani has decided to come to the party and dress up as the elephant. There can also be symbolism with cemeteries and morgues in Bharani as well. And so I think the theme to just keep in mind with Bharani is that it is actually linked to higher realms, even though it is a nakshatra of creation with being ruled by Venus. And so let's kind of talk about how Bharani is going to do at the Halloween party. So Bharani is ruled by Venus, and Venus within numerology is number 6. We already established that the Halloween party is number 4. So we're looking at Venus and Rahu together, number 6 and number 4 together. They're both even numbers. And so, they're going to get along really well. There's going to be, though, however, not a lot of dynamicism going on, between Bharani and the Halloween party. But nonetheless, they are going to get along well. And what's interesting is that Rahu expands the things of Venus, right? But Bharani is going to help the Halloween party, become a little bit more spiritual, even though Venusian things are very, grounded in the material world a lot. But oftentimes, Rahu, achieves its spirituality by being given things and then realizing that materialism is not what life is inherently about. It's actually about giving it all up. But Rahu is getting to understanding of spirituality by getting things. And so Bharani is actually going to help the Halloween party achieve this. But yes, they are going to get along well. Bharani's going to be a nice guest at the party. And then let's see who's coming to knock next. Okay, next to the Halloween parties are 2 nakshatras that are sitting next to each other, and they are going to be coming to the party at the same time. Okay, so the first one is going to be Ashlesha, that is sitting at the end of Cancer. And then joining Ashlesha at the party is Magha. Magha sits, entirely within Leo at the beginning. So they're coming together. And so Ashlesha is going to be dressed up as a cat because that is the yoni of Ashlesha. It's a male cat. And then the deity is the Nagas. So the Nagas are the serpents that live underground, and they hold a lot of occult knowledge and mysticism, and they are very highly intuitive, right? People that have Ashlesha prominent in their charts. And so Ashlesha is a very intuitive, mystical nakshatra. It is involved with the occult. And so, right, these are very much things that Halloween represents. But then also, when Ashlesha is operating at the lower vibrations, there can be manipulation and vindictiveness, and they can also inflict poison. And so this is something, right? Depending on how Ashlesha is going to be at the party, like, right, poison is something that we often think of at Halloween. There's always, in the stores, kind of like buying little decorations and they say poison on them or something like that. And so Ashlesha is going to be prominent at this party, and there is when we think about the Nagas, the snakes, they are responsible for Kundalini awakenings, right? When the snake is all coiled up at the base of our spine. And so it's this transformation. And so, that is another reason they're coming to the Halloween party. There's this kind of transformation that they are going to bring to the Halloween party. And so, how are they going to do at the Halloween party? Are they going to be like to guess? So, Ashlesha is ruled by Mercury. Number five within numerology is ruled by Mercury. So, we're looking at number five Mercury compared to the Halloween party, which has a birth number of four. And so, Mercury and Rahu, they're one is an odd number, one is an even number, right? Halloween is an even number. So, there's going to be a lot of dynamic back and forth energy between the two. But, ultimately, number four Rahu can cause some problems to Mercury, make Mercury go, a little bit haywire. And so the Halloween party is probably going to be a little too much for Ashlesha to handle, especially, there can be a lot of, secretive and elusive energy within Ashlesha. And so Ashlesha's coming and is really excited, but ultimately Ashlesha might not, be the best guest to have at the Halloween party. Okay, and then like I said, Magha showed up with Ashlesha. And Magha is represented, the deity is the Petries. And Magha is going to be dressed as a rat because that is the yoni of Magha Nakshatra. Magha is really happy to be here. It's ruled by Ketu, this nakshatra. And so Magha is going to come in and isn't really going to be partying and living it up like some of the other nakshatras, because it's that energy of Ketu, right? It's this deeper spirituality. There's going to be more introspection. I would say that Magha is going to be experiencing at this party, but the Petries have to do with the ancestors, and there's a deep connection to the ancestors and this buried treasure that is, the knowledge of the ancestors and what they have brought to us, and it explains a lot about our lineage. People that have Magha prominent within their astrology charts, within their D1, are going to have deep karmic ties to their family ancestors. The reason that Magha decided to come to this party is because Magha has a lot to do with the worship of the ancestors. And so with Halloween being, basically a celebration of the dead and spirits and, kind of with Day of the Dead the next day, right? Really, Dia de los Muertos and honoring the dead. So Magha is definitely going to be here, but it's going to be more introspective, right? They're not going to be, so excited as some of the other nakshatras to be, celebrating in the festivities, but Magha is going to come and sit and observe and worship the ancestors, right, while he's at the party. And so how are Magha and the Halloween party going to interact together and do together, right? Because we talked about how we're going to kind of personify the Halloween party as well. So the Halloween, the 31st, right, is a birth number of four, and being ruled by Ketu Magha is ruled by Ketu, so that's the coming together, right? The dragon's head and tail have come together, and so Magha is going to be an excellent party guest and is actually going to be in the lineup for possibly being one of the best guests, right? Because we're celebrating Halloween. Magha's coming in with that those themes of worshiping the ancestors and honoring the ancestors, and Rahu and Ketu are coming together, right? Magha and the Halloween party coming together. So Magha is definitely a forerunner for the winner of best guest in the party. We still have a few more nakshatras that are knocking on the door. Let's open it and see who else is there. Okay, next to the party is Mula. Mula is ruled by Ketu. The deity is Niriti, and Mula is going to be dressed as a dog because the yoni of Mula is a male dog. And Mula is really excited to be at this party, right? And is going to be a favorite party guest, being ruled by Ketu, right? That connection of the Halloween party, and then Ketu, Rahu, and Ketu coming together. So Mula has a lot to do with cemeteries and death rituals, which is very much Halloween, right? Because Niriti, the deity of this nakshatra, has a lot to do with tragedy and destruction and calamities and death. In fact, a lot of, things that happen in the world happen when, they're transits to Mula nakshatra. But these people, when these things happen, especially if you have Mula prominent in your chart, they seek solace within some of the darker things. It is spirituality, but some of the darker things. So they seek knowledge, within the occult and black magic. And so you can see how this is very much connected to Halloween. This nakshatra is really wanting to get to the heart of things and the knowledge of what, the universe is about, because the galactic center lies within Mula nakshatra. And so this nakshatra is very much it's connected to herbs and roots and wanting to get down into the heart of what things are. And so this would involve going into the occult to really understand what is happening. And this is, because the galactic center is within this nakshatra. And so you can see, with this desire to really understand what's happening and it's bringing in of destruction and death and the occult, that Mula is definitely coming to this party. It maybe won't be so festive as other nakshatras at the party, but again, really wanting to understand and get to the heart of things. And so while Mula is going to be an excellent guest at this party, Mula is going to feel a little bit trapped at the party, right? Just like people that have prominent placements within Mula can at times feel very trapped within this material world. So Mula's going to, stick around and try to, watch other nakshatras and other people at the party and see what's happening and really, kind of investigate what all of the purpose is. So we still have two more nakshatras that are coming. Can you guess which ones they are? Let's see who is knocking at the door. Okay, the next nakshatra that came in, I think just kind of slipped through the door, but everyone is very aware that this nakshatra is here. Even though they are keeping to themselves, they are shining brightly. Do you know which nakshatra it is? So if you guessed Ardra, then you are correct. The deity of Ardra is Rudra, the fierce form of Lord Shiva, and Ardra is dressed as a dog, right? Because the yoni of Ardra is a female dog. And as a side note, really quickly, if you do have Ardra prominent in your chart, that's your ascendant or your moon sign, I highly recommend you getting a female dog, because this is going to very much calm down the storm of emotions that are within you, or kind of the chaos that can be your life. It is going to help so much, and I recommend this wholeheartedly. But Ardra is about destruction, right? It's a very fierce nakshatra. There can be a lot of ups and downs in the lives of Ardra people, and it's causing destruction so that they can then be purified and cleansed and move on their path, because the next nakshatra is Purnavasu. But the reason that Ardra came to this Halloween party is because Ardra is associated with the star Betelgeuse, and Betelgeuse is within the constellation of Orion. Now, what is so interesting is that Orion holds a lot of prominence, not just within Vedic astrology, but it holds a lot of prominence within many cultures and civilizations. It has to do with Orion's belt, the three stars, because they are supposed to be from where the gods came from, and thus how our civilization was built, because the gods would come from Orion's belt and they were helper gods and would help build, the civilization as we know it today. And so Orion speaks to a lot about the other dimension and the other realms of existence, and where civilization and humanity is supposed to actually come from. And if you think about it, the nakshatra opposite Ardra is Mula. And remember what we said is in Mula, it's at the galactic center. And so, the Milky Way is part of that, and where we are located, we're within the Milky Way galaxy. But the opposite of that, getting out of the Milky Way and, out of this dimension, would be towards the constellation Orion. Betelgeuse, right, is part of this constellation. And so I really feel like Mula speaks to, being in this dimension a little bit more, but seeking that spirituality. And then Ardra has to do with leaving this dimension. And I think that that's why a lot of people go through so much that have Ardra prominent within their charts. But it's very similar to a portal out of this material world, because there is a lot of evidence that certain cultures, like the Hopi, built their villages and where they lived facing Orion's belt, and then the ancient pyramids faced Orion's belt, because it was a guide for how to get the souls out of the material world, and they went up towards Orion's belt. And so Ardra, while it is about destruction and purification, it is very much attached to the spiritual realms. It is the way, essentially out of this material dimension. And so Ardra, of course, is coming to this party, dressed as the dog to understand what's happening and to check things out at the party. And it's because it's across from Mula. There is going to be a lot of chit-chatting back and forth between Ardra and Mula. Ardra nakshatra is ruled by Rahu. And so Rahu with Halloween, right? Again, Halloween is number 4. They're very similar. It's going to be something very transformative for both Ardra and the Halloween party to be together. It's a lot of Rahu energy, but Ardra sitting in Gemini is Mercury. And so, Mercury and Rahu, it's going to make the mind go quickly. Ardra is going to be a very witty guest at the party. Halloween's going to appreciate it. And, they have those similar energies. There may be some ghost sightings by Ardra at the party, but in the end, it's a lot of Rahu energy. And so, Ardra may decide to leave the party just a little bit early too, because Ardra, natives do very much, they like to be that by themselves a lot. They may even feel a little bit ostracized at the party, and that they're not quite fitting in, with the other guests. But nonetheless, they do, stand out. People like their costume at the party, right? Because, right, Betelgeuse is the star that very much stands out. And then the last guest coming to the party, the last nakshatra that's going to be coming, is Jyeshtha. Jyeshtha is ruled by Mercury, and so we have that 5-4 connection, because Mercury is number 5 in numerology, and then the Halloween party is number 4 in numerology. And so it's just going to be an expansion of ideas. Again, Jyeshtha may see some ghosts because, it's experiencing the energy of Rahu. The deity of Jyeshtha is Indra, and Jyeshtha is going to be dressing up as a deer at this party. And so, the deer can really seek to try to, find a partner at this party, right? Jyeshtha is on the lookout, for for someone to hang out with at the party. And, while Jyeshtha is very much grounded in the material world, right? People that have Jyeshtha prominent, there is a very spiritual side and seeking that spirituality and occult powers and interest. And so that is one of the main reasons Jyeshtha decided to come, because Jyeshtha loves a good party and can be very social and wants to, visit with the other nakshatras and, other guests. But ultimately, Jyeshtha is quite spiritual and that occult energy within it. And so that is, again, the reason Jyeshtha came. And then finally, who did the Halloween party choose as the favorite guest, as the favorite nakshatra? So Magha and Mula were two of the favorites. They're both ruled by Ketu. Magha has a lot to do with the ancestors and honoring the ancestors, and Mula, holding that, deep occult potential because the galactic center is within it and getting down to the root of what things are. Those were two of the favorite nakshatras. But the most favorite nakshatra of the night was, can you guess? It was Purva Bhadrapada. And this is not just because Purva Bhadrapada is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter, very much help guide the party and can kind of control the crazy ways of, this number 4 birth number of Halloween. It also came early. And so, who doesn't appreciate a guest arriving early? And Purva Bhadrapada very much has to do with, the occult and mysticism and death. The reason Halloween chose Purva Bhadrapada as the favorite nakshatra is because of the spiritual fire that's contained within Purva Bhadrapada, right? Halloween, is a time when the veil between two dimensions is lifted. And Halloween felt that Purva Bhadrapada was actively trying to burn away the materialism and go towards a state of spirituality, a state that could eventually be sustained by Uttara Bhadrapada, right? The next nakshatra, the back legs of the funeral cot. Because once we achieve that spiritual fire, Uttara Bhadrapada sustains the spiritual fire, but is, fully within Pisces and still part of the funeral cot. And that is so much what Halloween has to do with, right? Like funerals and cemeteries and morgues. And so Purva Bhadrapada also seeks to uplift humanity. And so Halloween felt, while, Purva Bhadrapada was festive and fun with all of the occult and burning away the material, so that, the veil could be lifted between two worlds and ultimately just be within spirituality, which is where Halloween always wants to be. I mean, who doesn't want to have Halloween 365 days a year, right? But again, Halloween felt that upliftment of humanity that Purva Bhadrapada is ultimately seeking to sustain was very endearing to the Halloween party. And so that is why Halloween chose Purva Bhadrapada as its favorite nakshatra. So please let me know if there is another nakshatra. All of the nakshatras got invitations to the Halloween party. Let me know if there's another nakshatra that should have been called up and said, like, hey, where are you? It's time to show up for the Halloween party, right? There's no, right or wrong answer, just what other nakshatras you think, would do well at a Halloween party. I hope that this video was fun for you. I was just trying to, Halloween is here and I know people are Halloween crazy, and I just thought it would be a fun way to do a refresher on the nakshatras and kind of see them in a new way and how we can, bring them more into our lives, because I think oftentimes we forget on a daily basis that the nakshatras are influencing our lives. And if we can, really understand them more and pay more attention to them, we can see why things are happening. Please let me know if you have any questions. If the video is good for you, please like and subscribe so you never miss another one of my upcoming videos. And if you're interested in booking a consultation with me to understand how your planets or numbers are speaking to you within your life to get on your best path, you can book a consultation at brooknumerology.com. See you soon, friends. Bye.